In households from the Bronx to Buffalo, parents preach the importance of hard work and higher education to their children. When our children reach college age, families quickly discover that the American dream is much about affordability as it is about work ethic. Recognizing that higher education is the pathway to self-sufficiency and economic empowerment, the state created programs such as TAP and EOP to help students enter and move forward on this pathway to success. When we make these programs available to young men and women who were born here, it's called an investment. When we want to make these programs available to young men and women who were brought here, it's called a fiscal burden. I call it discrimination. This is why I'm proud to announce that for the third consecutive year, the Assembly majority will reaffirm our long-standing, unwavering commitment to educational opportunity for all New Yorkers as we prepare to take up and pass the DREAM Act later this afternoon. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, the DREAM Act would level the playing field for our foreign-born students by granting them eligibility to apply for state-funded grants and scholarships, and it would create a private scholarship fund to help these students afford the cost of higher education. Every study says that the more education and training that you have, the more opportunity becomes available to you. What's happening today? Today we have a historic number of jobs and companies who cannot find skilled workers to fill those jobs. We have young people who want to attain those skills and a higher education system that is becoming less and less affordable every day. We have graduates who are struggling under the impossible burden of their student debt. Not surprisingly, we have families and students, particularly those living in low-income communities and communities of color, who are losing hope of ever having the chance to earn a degree. When we close the door to opportunity and hope, we open the door to much more costly challenges such as poverty and homelessness. This is why I advanced the Higher Education Road to Success initiative. This is why I made the DREAM Act a key component of that initiative. Because our children are most important resource, and therefore we should be building the bridges that connect them to education and to skills training, and to hope and opportunity that follows them. I'm pleased the governor included the DREAM Act in his executive budget submission. We will work with him to give all New Yorkers, including our dreamers, access to the education they need and deserve, and to ensure that New York is the just and inclusive place it should be. As you can see, a number of my Assembly colleagues are here in support of the DREAM Act, including we have the sponsor, Francisco Moya, and we have a higher education chair of Deborah Glick. We have Ellen Jaffe, Maritza Davila, Michael Blake, Radnish Bichette, Mark Jonah, Latoya Joyner, Victor Pichardo, Guillermo Linares, Ron Kim, Steve Otis, Nellie Rosick, Charles Levine, Roxanne Prasad, Phil Ramos, Walter Mosley. And we've also been joined by, and he will speak later, the president of the AFL-CIO, Mario Salento. And we will have a very special guest with us, Ms. Zulema Dominguez, a student from Manhattan Community Colleges who is here today representing the Dreamers across the great state. Now it is my honor to introduce the sponsor of the DREAM Act, Francisco Moya.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your unwavering support throughout the years to make the DREAM Act a reality. I also want to thank my colleague, Assemblywoman Deborah Glick, for her continuous fight in the Higher Education Committee year after year to make this a possibility, and I thank you greatly for your work, and all of my colleagues who stand behind me today in support of this great piece of legislation. It's been a long journey, but thanks to the leadership of Speaker Heastie and Assemblywoman Glick and my colleagues, I believe that 2015 will be the year of the dream. The saying used to go, where New York goes, so goes the nation. But the truth is, we've been falling behind. We've been falling behind like states like California, Texas, New Mexico, Washington, and Minnesota. But people will look back and say that in 2015, New York changed history. The nation is watching. The fate of our dreamers is in our hands. If we don't act, they will most likely become statistics than success stories. Undocumented but blameless in their circumstances. How can a one-year-old decide to break the law? How can a small child decide to cross into another country on his own? They're victims of their circumstances, and we're not in the business of punishing victims in this state. These students are just asking to be treated equally to their classmates, just as they have been since kindergarten. The cost of the DREAM Act is so small, yet the potential to fundamentally change and reshape the lives of so many. Look into the faces of these kids who are here today. They've been here most of their lives. They're likely to grow up, get married, have kids of their own here in the state of New York. Isn't it in our best interest that the future generation have well-educated parents? We know that the fiscal cost is so tiny. For those who oppose the DREAM Act, I say, it isn't really about cost. It's about fear. And it's about dehumanizing a population they call illegal. It's easy to say we don't have to pay attention to them. They're illegal. But that's just sticking our heads in the sand. We must govern in realities, not fiction. No human is illegal, and no child should be punished for the mistakes of their parents. It's time we give these students the chance to learn, work, and contribute to the state of New York. It's time that we once again act as that beacon of progress for the rest of the nation and pass the New York State DREAM Act this year. Thank you.
We'll now hear from the Chair of the Higher Education Committee, Assemblywoman Deborah Glick.
Good morning. We have always been a nation of immigrants, and we have always been proud of that. That has been what has set us apart from other countries. We have always opened our doors, and we are better for it. We have young people here ready and willing to contribute. They are our children. They're not somebody else's. They belong here, and they belong to us. And we have an obligation, as we have always had and have lived up to. We have educated them, whether they started in kindergarten or came here and started in 5th grade. We have already made an investment. It is short-sighted and foolish not to continue to help them get the full education that they deserve, and we deserve to have their talents added to the talent pool of this country, as we have always embraced new immigrants, because that is who we are. All of us have come from another place, or our parents or grandparents, and we have an obligation to go forward as a unified country and a unified state. We are looking to the young people for the future, and they are ours, and we deserve to give them every opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll now hear from Ms. Zulema Dominguez, the student from Manhattan Community College.
I'm afraid. Good morning. First of all, I want to thank Speaker Heastie and for being such a strong advocate for the New York State DREAM Act. Also to Assemblyman Francisco Moya, our dream champion, and all the members of the Assembly and the Dreamers that are here in this room today. So today, when I woke up and as I was getting ready to come to Albany, I realized that we are making history. By saying that is that New York State is moving forward, one step forward to pass TAP to, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
That's okay.
Everything's okay. You're doing great.
So sorry.
It's all right. It's okay.
So, again, I'm a dreamer. I represent not just myself, but hundreds of thousands of dreamers in New York. And by, so sorry.
It's okay.
Just
say what you feel. Just say what you feel.
So, like I said, while I was getting ready, I realized that we are making history. We're moving forward for to make happen my dream, not just my dream, other students undocumented, to expand TAP, which I mean by this is getting access to a higher education. I immigrated from Mexico in 2002. I immigrated from Mexico to the United States in 2002. And I immigrated with my family for a better future. A better future for me is to all right, you know, I've been trying to memorize this. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm sorry. Yes, I've been trying to memorize this, but you know, if I don't be myself right now, it's not being a true me. So. So, I came to this country when I was 7 years old. I always knew that I was undocumented. I always knew that I was going to face a struggle. And, you know, my parents have always said, nothing's going to be easy, and nothing is right now. I started school, and my first obstacle was the language. I couldn't speak English. My first language was Spanish. And as I started in school, I started learning it. And then I tried to be the best student I can be. I was involved in after-school programs. I'm still involved in my community. And by being involved in my community is fighting for others, you know? It's not just for myself. And once I immigrated here and I started college, I realized that it was too hard for me. I have to work more than 40 hours every week. Sometimes I have to work more than 2 jobs in order to afford my tuition. You know, this is a politician games. I don't like that. Why? Because I don't think education should be a privilege. I think it should be equally for everybody. Whether you're an immigrant, whether you're a transgender, whether you are Black African American, whoever you are, you need to have equally access to education. The New Year Dream Act will benefit thousands of hundreds of students, and I ask for everybody's support here. Again, like our assemblyman, Francisco Moya, and the speaker said, I don't want to be part of the statistics of negative statistics. I want to be part of this positive statistics in New York City. I want to contribute to this state. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in here. If I go back to my country, they would be like, get out. You don't speak our language here neither. So if I don't belong here, where do I belong? You know, I just think that that we all deserve education, you know? Education, freedom, and equality in this country. Something that we're always fighting for, but we are free, but we're not equally treated. We're not, and it's time to change this. Like I said, it's time to make history, positive history, not negative. I don't want my siblings to look at this and be like, you didn't graduate from college, but my reason be like, because the government didn't let me. Because nobody support me. I want all your support in my education. If you already invest in me, why not keep investing when I can give back to this state? So thank you so much. And sorry. What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it?
Thank you, Ms. Elaine. You were great, you were great. Next up, we will have the president of the AFL-CIO, Mario Salento.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I speak for everyone here when I say when you ask the question, where do you belong? You belong right here with all of us. So we're all in this together. I certainly just first want to thank Speaker Heastie, Assemblyman Moyer, Assemblywoman Glick, and everyone here in the Assembly for continuing to put forth this fight. And on behalf of the 2.5 million members I represent at the AFL-CIO, we are so thankful for your continued dedication and commitment to this most worthwhile endeavor. You know, all of us who fight for this issue, we understand that the connection is between the aptly named DREAM Act and the American dream, and we understand that because we all get the fact that we all share a common bond. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what kind of job you have, no matter what sector you work in, no matter what religion you practice, no matter if you were born in this country or not, regardless of whether your parents were born in this country or not. The fact of the matter is we all share that bond, and it's a bond that says we share the same needs and the same concerns and the same wants, and we share the same values and the same principles and the same ideals. And those principles and ideals are basically this. We all want to be able to get up to go to work every morning to support ourselves and our families. We all want to be able to be part of the economic engine that runs this state and runs this country. And we all want to be productive members of society. That's what we want. And when we talk about the connection between the DREAM Act and the American dream, I'll give you my own example. My wife and I have 3 daughters, and my little girls are 11 and 9 and 4 years old. And at the end of the day, when I get home and I see them at night and it's late, all I want to do as their father, as their parent, is I want to nurture them, I want to protect them, and I want them to have a better life than me. I want them to have a brighter future than I had when I was their age. If you're a parent, that's what you want for your child. If you're not a parent, that's what your parents wanted for you. Because that's the American dream. The American dream isn't about owning a new house or buying a new car. Those are residual effects of the American dream. The American dream in this country historically has been that we want the next generation to do a little bit better than the generation before it. And we want the next generation to be a little bit more financially secure than the generation before it. And we want the next generation to have a brighter future than the generation before it. And the point is this. When you pass the DREAM Act, you afford that opportunity to all of these children who deserve that right, and you give them the ability to better achieve that American dream so that they can, in fact, have a better future than their parents, to, in fact, have better and more financial security than the generation before them. The opportunity to give back to our economy and our society in all the different ways through the better jobs that they'll have and all the income that we pay back into taxes and the business that they'll open up. That's what this is about. But most importantly, it's this. It's the fact that all the children who will be affected by this, who are coming up and who would benefit from the DREAM Act, each and every one of those children should have the same exact opportunity to achieve the American dream as my daughters have, because my daughters were born here. Everyone deserves to have that same opportunity to achieve that dream, and that's why we're here today. So again, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank all of you here today, and the time is now to get this done. Thank you very much.